Coming in Facebook, coming in YouTube, getting ready to start my show called Jimmy Rants. Looks like it did not go live on Facebook, so let me get out of this and try it again over on Facebook. But come on in YouTube. Thank you for being here today. We're going to start my show pretty soon called Jimmy Rants. Let's get out of the app. Let's start it again. We'll get this bad boy started. But thank you guys for being here. I love it when sometimes I try to go live and it just goes berserko on me. So it happens. We just try again. Hello, Shirley. Thank you for being here today. We're just gonna start it all over again. Sometimes it's like you just have to try it twice. That's just the way it goes. But thank you for being here. We're gonna get started with my show, Jimmy Rants here. Looks like in about 3.5 minutes more to go. Came on a little bit early today. I've got somewhere to be just as soon as I'm done with Jimmy Rants today. So wanted to get started and get going and not be late today. So let's see if we can get this YouTube feed to play right now. All right, here we go. Let's see if they're gonna go live. Coming in Facebook, getting ready to start my show, Jimmy Rants, over here on Instagram. We're already live over on YouTube. Had a little bit of technical difficulties getting you guys to come on, but here we are. Thanks for being here today. Hope you all had a great weekend. As always, I always take the weekend to refresh because you guys know all week long I go. Monday through Friday, I do this show live at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And I do lots of content on social media. I do 3 podcasts a week. So I'm just constantly go. And that's the way I like it. But on the weekend, I stop, slow down. I guess I slow down. I don't really stop, but yeah. Hello, Norma. Hello, Kay. Norma likes my purple shirt. So yes, purple and red. When I give talks in person, I like to wear either this shirt or a red shirt. There's just something about purple and red, at least for me, that are like power shirts when you're giving a talk. So that is my jam. Good morning, Kay. Okay, so we're going to get started here. T-minus 1.5 minutes, and we will get started with the show. Got a great topic for you today. If you're one of those people that thinks you have to be a multitasker, maybe after today's Jimmy Rants, you might rethink that. So pretty interesting article that I want you to hear about. So, all right, I am going to get started a little bit earlier than I normally do over there, simply because I need to be done by noon and hit the road and get out of here. I got somewhere to be this afternoon, and it's going to be like an all day, all afternoon kind of affair. So need to get to that. So thank you guys for being here. Feel free to share all over Facebook, on your personal page or any group page that you're a part of. Thank you guys for being here today over on YouTube. And here we go. Are you a multitasker? Find out today why that's not such a good thing. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. Go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I am at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live in the content. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So thank you so much for being here today. We also go live over here on my Facebook channel. They simulcast the same show as you guys watch, as well as over on YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on Instagram on IGTV. We put it up there right as soon as the show is over. It goes right up on IGTV. We also put all the past episodes up over on YouTube. If you type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. And then finally, we do have an official website for this show. It's JimmyRants.com. And once you're there, you can see all the past episodes there as well. Lots of ways to see all the archives. Over 600 episodes and counting now. So thank you if you're a regular. If you're a new person, then you got a lot to catch up with. But JimmyRants.com is your go-to to see all those past episodes. And if you like what I do here, there's ways for you to support my work either through Patreon or PayPal. Okay, you guys, good Monday morning. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope you had a great weekend. I like to start off the week with Jimmy Rants, doing something to either make you think, inspire, and I got a little bit of all that here today. Are you one of those people who you would consider yourself a multitasker? Now, those of us that are influencers and people that have been online and content providers, a lot of people probably assume that the reason we're good at our jobs is because we know how to multitask well. So multitasking meaning doing simultaneous things all at the same time in order to get the job done. And it's always been seen as something good for you to have that as a skill. To be able to multitask, it's pretty talented. Most people struggle with it because they can't remember where they were with one project with another. And I probably should preface this to say, if your personality type is such that you like multitasking, maybe this doesn't apply to you. But I have an article from a neuroscientist here today. Dr. Caroline Leaf is her name. I have interviewed her on the Real Talk podcast. She was on earlier this year talking about trauma and its impact on your brain. Really fascinating lady, sweetheart of a lady. She is right here on Instagram, Dr. Caroline Leaf, if you want to go look her up. But she makes the point in her article, which she posted on mindbodygreen.com, that if you are currently multitasking, you probably need to stop doing that. Now, you might be thinking, wow, multitasking, that has to be like a good thing, right? It's a skill that people need to learn to be able to get more done and become more efficient, become more successful. Like all of those things we assume about people who are multitaskers. But she makes the case that being a multitasker is detrimental, and she shows you what you should be doing instead. Really fascinating stuff. Can't wait to dig into this with you here today. So let's go ahead and get started. When we multitask, we end up with what I like to call milkshake thinking, which is the opposite of mindfulness. Milkshake thinking. I like that imagery because what's a milkshake? It's this blending together of flavors and things. Like think about a Dairy Queen milkshake and they put like cookies and cream and chocolate chips and all these little things in there. And what do? Mix it all together. And what's it look like in the end? It's this big mush of just stuff. So milkshake thinking, which is the opposite of mindfulness. Now, we even think about mindfulness in the context of multitasking. Multitasking does seem to be the opposite of mindfulness. Because when you're engaging in mindfulness, you're kind of focusing in on what that one thing is and you're doing it. Whereas if you're multitasking and having this milkshake thinking, suddenly all of those things kind of get gobbledygook together. Every rapid, incomplete, and poor quality shift of thought makes this milkshake with our brain cells and neurochemicals. Our brains are very efficient at doing what we tell it to do. If you tell it to focus on one thing, it can focus very intently on that one thing, but you got to train your brain to do that. The problem is a lot of people, and I'm one of those people, I'll be the first to admit, a lot of people will try to focus on one thing, but then in the focusing on the one thing, that spawns another thought about another thing, which then spawns another thought about three more things, and suddenly I've got this jumble of ideas rolling around in my head. And if you're one of those people that can handle all those ideas at a higher level of thinking, then go for it. But I think what Caroline is saying in her article is that a lot of people have all kinds of thoughts, these really fast, incomplete, poor quality shifts of thought that make this a more detrimental thing than a good thing. And if you're just joining us, I am reading from an article from Mind Body Green. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist, And here's why you need to stop multitasking. Maybe you're one of those people that thinks multitasking is a good thing. Dr. Caroline Leaf has written a beautiful article making the argument that you probably don't need to be multitasking, and she gives tips on what you should be doing instead. So let me continue the article. Conscious cognitive multitasking disrupts the balanced flow of energy. So she's talking about the waves in your brain. Delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. All of that make up your brain circuitry. When we consciously try to jump rapidly from one task to another, did I just describe somebody jumping rapidly from one task to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and then back to the first one, right? Is that you? I'm guilty. I go all over the board. When we do that, we essentially cloud our ability to concentrate and to think deeply. Think about that for a moment. When you get in that mode of multitasking, what is your thought process in the moment? Is it about any one thing, or is it about the totality? And when you think about the totality, can you think clearly? Like, really give this serious thought. It's amazing when it's told to you in this many words by a neuroscientist to say, okay, think about what you're doing. You're basically diluting your brain's ability to focus on the one task at hand in front of you. Maybe you have something right in front of you, easy to get it done, be done with it, and move to the next thing. But what are you doing? You're dibbling on that one while you're doing like 10 other things all at the same time. That multitasking is doing your brain no good at all. This can reduce intelligence in the very moment. So if you, like when I'm writing a book, I'm focused on the book. And when I put something on paper for the book, I'm not thinking about some podcast I want to do. I'm not thinking of a Jimmy Rants topic I want to talk about. I'm not thinking about my grocery list that I need to go get at the store. I'm not thinking about anything except the words that I'm putting on the page for the book that I'm writing. Why do I do that? Because I need to be focused. Because guess what? If it's half-assed, when you, the reader, start reading my book, you're going to know I half-assed it. And that's not good. And so your intelligence in that moment actually gets reduced because you're diluting those thoughts by spreading them amongst many thoughts. It also affects your ability to do a task well. And again, think about it this way. Think about if you needed to unload your car, and you unloaded the lightest things first, but then maybe you tried to pick up a whole lot at one time and you ended up dropping half of those things on the way in. Then you'd have to go back out there and individually pick them up and make multiple trips. Whereas if you had just done what you could do, focusing on the one task, bring them in, unload them, go back out, you wouldn't have had any things to clean up. And that's kind of what we're doing when we're overdoing it on the thinking, is you can't really do the task well. You have to focus in on the singular thing. All of this, by the way, when you don't handle things well and the task isn't done well and you reduce your intelligence in the moment, all of this leads to unnecessary anxiety and stress in your life. Have you become so overwhelmed sometimes by circumstances, by the things you're going through, because maybe, just maybe, you've thought about them too much? You're not alone. There's a lot of people that do that. So we need to recognize that although we as humans can do busy well, we need to learn how to do busy wisely. This does not necessarily mean we need to slow down. Hear this loud and clear. I love the distinction she makes between multitasking and being busy. It's not just slowing down the work. Rather, we need to find ways to organize and compartmentalize our thinking. So she's a cognitive neuroscientist. Again, if you joined us late, I'm reading from an article from Mind, Body, Green by Dr. Caroline Leaf. I've interviewed her earlier this year on Real Talk about trauma and how you overcome it and how it changes the wiring in your brain. Wonderful, wonderful, wise lady. and she's penned this beautiful article about multitasking being more detrimental, and you actually need to stop multitasking. So she's getting into the part of what the best practices are that you should be doing instead of multitasking. So get ready. This is good stuff, you guys. Number one, remind yourself in the moment that you can't do everything at one time. I think that's most people's problem. When they know they have a list of things to do and they think, oh, I'll just do all of them, a little bit of all of them, all at the same time, and I'll eventually get through them all. And they don't realize that when you try to do everything at once, you get overwhelmed. That anxiety ramps up. Whereas if you have a checklist, and a lot of people like to have like a checklist. My dad used to do that. He'd have a little written checklist on an envelope or something, and he would just go straight down the list, and he would do them one at a time and cross them off as they got done. So that's a good way to do it, is kind of focus in on one at a time. Tell yourself things like, I can't finish this now, but will as soon as I'm done sorting out this other problem. Or I will make a note of where I am in this document and what I was thinking so I can pick up here later. I've done that. Many times I've been in the middle of writing a post for social media, like right in the middle of, and I'm like full on creativity mode. It's just flowing out of me. And I get a call that I have to take. And so what I do is I save it, because I have lost work that I've done before. So I save it after putting in a little bit of notes that says, okay, this is what I was thinking at this time. And so when I come back, it will trigger that memory of what I was writing about so I can pick up where I left off. Maybe write these down on a few sticky notes or Post-its and put them near your desk or fridge, even as a reminder on your smartphone. Meaning, tell yourself, I can finish this later because I've got to take care of this other problem first. Have a little Post-it note that just puts it right there. That way it reminds you, it's all over the place. You don't have to get this done now. You can save it for later if something is more pressing. Number two, tell people who need your attention to give you enough time to finish what you're doing. Don't ever be a yes person. Having definitive boundaries in your work and home relationships will help you compartmentalize your tasks, keeping things tidy in your mind and helping you prioritize what needs attention and what can wait. And a lot of people have problems with this because we have a propensity to want to tell everyone yes. Because once you say no, you think you're disappointing people. And nobody wants to be a disappointment to others, so you say yes to too many things. So don't be a yes person. Have those boundaries in place. Know what the task at hand is and stay focused on that task. And if someone comes in needing your attention, ask them politely, hey, I need to finish this other task I'm in the middle of first, and as soon as I'm done with that, I will come to you. So that prioritizes what the attention needs to go to. Often we keep our boundaries secret out of fear of affecting your relationship with that other person or affecting how someone sees us. Because if you put someone off, and I've had people tell me this before when I couldn't answer in the moment, I was on DM or something, and they wanted an answer to something. I said, I'll come back to you. I have a podcast scheduled in 5 minutes. Da, da, da. And sometimes they'll be like, well, I thought you cared about your followers and you'd answer me. I'm like, okay, I do care about my followers and I will answer you. I just can't do it in the moment. So not everyone understands this dynamic, and you can upset some people. I mean, if they get that upset, it's truly their problem, not your problem. But you have to assess the situation to see what the best strategy is. We end up saying yes to things we really don't want to do. Anybody guilty? Do you say yes to things that you're like, I didn't really want to do that? Yeah, I think we all do. So that can make you feel trapped, depressed, uncomfortable, resentful, or anxious. So think about all these things as you're trying to end multitasking. Some of that multitasking is of your own doing, where you're trying to be everything to everybody, and you can't be everything to everybody. Even the most superwoman, superman in the world, you just can't. You have to let things flow in a natural form to keep your own sanity. Like, Keep that in mind. Your mental health in all of this is what's crucial. And that's what Caroline Leaf in this article is trying to get you to do, is think about the impact that trying to be all things to all people is doing to you mentally, because that will wear you down and you will get burnt out. And then you wonder, why did I put myself in that position with all those feelings of feeling trapped, depressed, uncomfortable, resentful, and anxious? Because that physically now has an effect on you, not just mentally. The mental is obvious. The physical effects of that draining is true as well. All of this in turn will affect your mental well-being and your physical well-being, as I was just saying, and your ability to think, because your feelings change the way your brain and body function right down to your genes. So if you let this stuff overwhelm you, it can actually impact your full genetic expression. Woo! Like when you start thinking about how the mind goes, so goes the body. That will open your eyes as to why what we're talking about here today is so important. You don't want to let your mind go to places that will now have an impact on your body and your body's functions. And I've been talking a lot about this lately in my work, of how things in our life, stressful events, just things in general that are seemingly not related to your physical body actually end up being very much related to your physical body. So you got to set up boundaries like property lines, and they need to be clear so that other people know when they are crossing them and when they are causing mental distress. Before it gets to the point of anxiousness and uncomfortable and resentful and depression and blah, 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 before it even gets close to being there, you have to set those boundaries up. And you need to make people honor those boundaries. Now, if they don't want to be happy because you set up boundaries, that's their problem, not yours. You have to do this for your own mental and physical well-being. When you understand why you need the mental space to complete a task and how important this space is, you can let other people know in a calm and collected way what you need. People might think, okay, well, that's selfish. No, selfish is thinking you can do it all. Selfish is where you have to say yes to everyone, and then you end up resenting those people that you supposedly care about, love, whatever, thus why you said yes to them. I think if we say no or not right now to people, we think that we're somehow letting them down. You're letting yourself down if you say yes to something that you don't have the ability to do in the moment, right? If you joined us late, we are reading from an article. Dr. Caroline Leaf, she's a cognitive neuroscientist, and she has this article in Mind, Body, Green all about why you need to stop multitasking. And we're in the middle of what you should do instead and how you can handle that propensity to want to just do a whole bunch of things all at the same time. She's saying there's ways to do it. So we're up to the third thing, and the third one should be obvious in this context. Choose to focus on one thing. I think that's what's lost a lot of times. When we have so much to do, we look at the totality of everything that needs to be done and not just the one thing that we can do right now. So there's this guy that's a financial advisor. He's brilliant. His name is Dave Ramsey. And Dave has this program where it's called the Debt Snowball. So if you've heard his show, he has a podcast and radio show. If you've heard his show, he always recommends that people take all of your credit card bills, and people think, oh, you want to pay off the one with the highest interest rate first and then go down to the lowest interest rate. And he's like, no, you want to take the one with the smallest balance, regardless of the interest rate, the smallest balance, and throw as much money at that as you can, paying minimum on all the rest of them, but throw in as much money as you can at that smallest total balance of money on a credit card. Then once that's paid off, you snowball that money you were paying for that one into the next one, where you pay the money you were just paying on the one previously, plus the minimum payment you were paying on that one, until that one's off, and then you snowball that one to the next one, so that over time, and he recommends you work like a gazelle to make all kinds of money, do a Uber, drive for DoorDash, something to get extra money and eat beans and rice. Rice and beans is what he calls it. In the keto world, I always try to find what could you do? Eat eggs and pork rinds and eggs. Yeah. Um, but yeah, you do that and you eventually pay it off. But how do you do it? You focus on one of those things at a time. You focus on the one with the lowest balance and you let it cascade. And every time you pay off a credit card and you cut up that credit card and it's all gone, it's a sense of accomplishment, which then motivates you to get to that next task and that next credit card, the next credit card. And in this case, the tasks, when you focus on one thing. So when you direct your mind, it's a choice where you decide to do that. One that can affect you either positively or negatively. This is especially the case when you try to multitask. You can reduce the anxiety that comes with decision fatigue, the feeling of just getting overwhelmed by all the plethora of would and could choices that we face daily. By choosing in the moment you're in it to stay focused on a singular task and disregard all other less urgent demands. When you do this, you actually build up a mental strength and resilience, which will help you better deal with disappointment, failure, and daily anxieties of life. You do all that, but you also have an accomplishment under your belt. When you get that one thing done, it's done. Time for the next one. Like when I know I have a post to write and I have a podcast to record, I've got the Jimmy Rants to do, I've got all of these things. I'm not thinking about all of them simultaneously. I'm thinking about them individually. So like right now, I'm totally focused on doing this Jimmy Rants episode. I'm not thinking about some podcast I have to do. I'm not thinking about some post I want to write about. The creative juices aren't flowing anywhere else except on this task at hand. So staying that focused on the one thing, and it actually ends up building that mental strength, building that resilience, so that when you face a whole plethora of things in the future, the best strategy is focus on the one thing and get it done. Get her done, as the famous Southern boy said. Number 4, limit the time you spend online. Although technology has many benefits, constantly being bombarded with information and stimulation can distract you. So try to limit the time you spend online, especially on social media. Well, that's hard for me because most of my work is done online and on social media. So I'm on social media 3 platforms right now. So it's almost impossible for me to completely disconnect. But I know what he's saying. Don't get caught in the rabbit hole. If you've ever been on a BuzzFeed article, then you know what I'm talking about. You could get on a BuzzFeed article and you click on a link inside of there that goes on a link inside of there that goes on a link inside of there, and 3 hours later you're going, what happened to my life? Same with TikTok. You can sit there and watch TikTok videos for hours on end, but you have to stay focused on the task at hand if you're trying to be efficient with your time. And then number 5, practice deep thinking and mindfulness. Practice spending time focusing and thinking deeply on a task. I wonder how many people actually do that. Actually take the time to really think deeply on anything. Like I begin to wonder in this day and age, do people think deeply anymore? I think deeply on the regular. That's just how my brain works. I love to go deep in conversation with people. I love when I'm writing something for social media to go deep and make people think. I occasionally try to do that here on Jimmy Rants. It's something that I think should be manifested in all of us because I think it does do us good to go deeply in our thinking. Meditation, she says, is a great way to do this, as well as brain building or learning something new by focusing deeply on the information you're trying to learn, either from a book, article, podcast, or class. This kind of deep intellectual thinking actually activates a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex in a positive way. So if you put your focus in on and seriously think heavily on and become mindful of some topic that you're reading, listening to a podcast, maybe even this Jimmy Rants episode, you start to think on another level. It's something I try to do in all of my work, by the way. When I write something for social media, I'm very deliberate about trying to get my readers to think and think on another level that maybe they haven't thought about before. If you've been reading my posts lately, you know what I'm talking about. I've tried to be a lot more deliberate. I don't do fluff. Enough people out there do kind of fluff posts. That's just not me. I like to really, really challenge my audience and make you think about things that maybe you hadn't thought about before. Because when you start going in that direction, it'll activate that frontal cortex, which will make your creativity turn on, make your cognition, your rationality all turn on as well. And I think we should all be challenging each other in that way. If you're not being challenged to think deeper, you need to find people who will challenge you to think deeper. This is the kind of thinking that also trains the brain to build memory well. I've got a pretty good memory. Like, I can almost recall podcast guest interviews that I've done, and all that information is up there. Now, sometimes it's hard to tap into that information, but I do have great information from all the interviews I've done over the years. In 2012, there was a research group at the University of Washington that completed an interesting study about the effects of meditation training on multitasking. What they found was the subjects of the study had fewer negative emotions, they stayed on task longer, and had improved concentration, switched between tasks more effectively in a focused and organized way, as opposed to haphazardly dashing back and forth between the tasks, and then they spent their time more efficiently. So they did that with all these strategies she mentioned here today. Dr. Leaf saw something similar in her own research with patients who had traumatic brain injury and students and adults who had learning and emotional disabilities. She trained them in a technique that she developed to promote a more deeply intellectual thinking pattern and showed them how to apply it in their own life. The changes were immediate. They had better focus, better understanding, more efficiency in shifting between tasks, and an overall effectiveness in producing quality work. There were even positive emotional changes, specifically in being self-motivated and self-esteem. Over time, they continued to improve in cognitive and emotional functioning. And this is so important. When you don't multitask and get overwhelmed by that multitasking and instead refocus and have that better focus and have better understanding and have better efficiency shifting between tasks and having effectiveness and having quality work come out, you have an emotional impact. And that emotional impact also impacts your physical health. It impacts your confidence levels. You see why all of this is so important and why being proactive in making sure you're doing these things is so critical. And in self-motivation and self-esteem. A lot of people give up and they have a physical effect of being drained. If you've ever been burned out in your work, you know what I'm talking about. You physically are drained. Well, did you do anything physically exerting? No, but you're physically drained because of that emotional drainage. And you got emotionally drained because you had not learned how to deal and focus on the task at hand. In my recent clinical trials, again, this is Dr. Caroline Leaf, we observed that when people consciously and deliberately focus on managing their minds in the moment, they don't multitask. As a result, they feel a lot less anxious, less depressed, and are more empowered to deal with any challenge they face. Anybody need that today? Where you need to feel more empowered to deal with the challenges in your life? Maybe you've been feeling down and depressed and you didn't know why. Could it be that you're spreading yourself too thin by trying to multitask? You're not alone, so don't feel bad. Bunch of people do this. But learning this skill that she's teaching here today in this post will help you a lot. One other additional benefit from deep thinking is this thing called increased gyrification, a lovely word that means more folds in the cortex of the brain. These extra folds allow the brain to process information a lot faster. I've always had one of those brains that when I hear information, I retain it pretty quick. It just goes there and it sticks. I don't know if that means I have more folds in the cortex of my brain or not, but I certainly do have quick thinking to process information, making decisions quicker, and it improves your memory. In sum, deep, mindful thinking means you have a healthy brain. And that's the overall theme here of this post and why she's saying multitasking is probably not a good idea. You want a healthy brain. You want to be able to tap into parts of your brain that will keep you calm while you get things done. Of course, life is always distracting, and sometimes it's hard to resist the temptation to try to multitask. However, how and where you choose to direct your attention is always your choice. Remember, you cannot or you can choose not to multitask. That is a choice as well. You will control the distractions. The distractions will never control you. So what'd you think about that one, guys? Like, are you one of these people that thinks, oh, I can get it all done and I've got all these things lined up and I'll just go here and here and here and here and here and here and here. And at the end of the day, you're like, what just hit me? And you feel like a freight train hit you? Maybe today's Jimmy Rants was for you, that you can learn to be a little more focused on the tasks at hand and not trying to do everything at once. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. I'm going to come here first to Instagram, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is a website. As always, you love what I do, go support me, JimmyRants.com. Hit the Patreon link or the PayPal link, and a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. What's up with that, Instagram? I ain't got a single comment from you, like no comments on multitasking. Nobody there is a multitasker, really? I don't believe you. I have a feeling a bunch of you are multitaskers. Send me some comments. That's like the first time in the history of Jimmy Rants that you guys were stunned silent. Was it just so succinct from Dr. Leaf, her article, that you didn't want to add anything else? Okay, well, let's see if Facebook did any better. What's up, Facebook? Let's see if we have any comments over here. Crystal says, oh my God, you're describing my life. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are just like this. And it's very common, which is why Dr. Leaf wanted to write the article. And I'm glad she did, because I always viewed multitasking as, hey, I'm getting a lot done, and wow, look how good I am at balancing and juggling all the balls at the same time. And she's right. You can burn out. You can really mess yourself up. Kay says spam and eggs and spam. Yeah, Dave Ramsey would be proud if you're keto and you're doing his program instead of rice and beans and rice. Spam and eggs and spam. I love it. Kay says, I'm one of those list checkers when it comes to doing the household chores. At work, I prioritize projects and do one to completion before starting another. See, you've learned this skill that Dr. Leaf just talked about. Thank you, Facebook. Let's pop over here now to YouTube. See if YouTube can come through. You guys always give me some good stuff. I'm like Doug from the Disney movie, Up. Squirrel! Yeah. Easily distracted. Very easily distracted. And I guess that's part of this equation too, is your personality type. Are you one of those people that's kind of ADD and okay, you're in the middle of something, but something gets your attention, you go, oh, look, squirrel. Yeah, it's not uncommon. But I think you can retrain your brain in that as well, which is what Dr. Leaf is talking about. That girl from Brooklyn said, we're trying to multitask, that's why we're not talking, LOL. Yeah. So good. If you're not commenting to Jimmy because you're doing other things while you're watching Jimmy Rants, then good job. You've learned the lesson of this Jimmy Rants. Thank you for that comedic relief. That was good, that girl. Okay, I totally am, says Britt. Yeah, I think most of us are multitaskers. And I think sometimes when you get really good at multitasking, you learn this skill of going from one thing to the other, in kind of an orderly fashion. I think what she's talking about is there's some people that they kind of start here, start here, start here, start here, start here, start here. And we all know those people in our lives that are good at starting things, but not good at finishing things. Kelly says, yes, I'm totally doing the dishes right now. Well, the dishes is a mundane task, Kelly. You can interact while you're doing the dishes. Just kidding. But we're people in your life that are very good at starting something. They're doing the Michael Jackson. Wanna be starting something, got to be starting something. They just don't know how to end it. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Well, I hope this was helpful today. Britt says I was a waitress for 14 years, so it comes to me through that. Yeah, if you're a waitress, you got a lot you've got to do. It's kind of hard to do one task at a time when you have an order to take, an order to pick up and take to the table. You got someone with their finger in the air wanting the check. You got someone else wanting a refill. Miss, excuse me, waitress. I don't know how waitresses do it, but there's people that love that kind of job. That's why when I worked in a restaurant, it was in the kitchen or a busboy that didn't have to like deal with multitasking. Busboy, you just clean the dishes. You got it done. Cooking, you just cooked whatever the next order was. You got that order and you got it done. That was my jam. But even now, I don't try to overwhelm myself with multiple things all at the same time. If I'm talking about, and it also comes up in conversations with people. So I've got friends that like to bounce all over the place in conversation. And if we're talking about something and we're right in the middle of something and then they jump to something else, I'm like, wait a minute, we're not done with this topic yet. Let's finish this topic and then you can start a new topic, but don't jump to a new topic before I'm done with this topic. So I'm sure you guys have friends like that as well. Well, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. Go follow me right here. I'm on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you so much for being here today. We also simulcast on Facebook and YouTube. We put it up on replay on IGTV right here on Instagram. It's over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, we have the official website for this show. It is JimmyRants.com. While you're there, see all the past episodes, and you can also show your support. If you love what I do here, there's a Patreon and a PayPal link, and a donation of any amount would be greatly appreciated. Okay, you guys, I've got an interesting article I want to read tomorrow. Because tomorrow is 2 weeks before the election. It's hard to believe the election's almost here, but 2 weeks before the election, and I want to do a Jimmy Rants episode on what do you do when your candidate loses? Because somebody's candidate's going to lose. And it's not just the presidential candidacy, there's all kind of other candidates maybe you're vested in, have a vested interest in, and they may win or lose. What happens when they lose, and how do you handle that, and how do you recover? So I want to do a whole Jimmy Rants on that. It's going to hit like half of the population. You just don't know which half until 2 weeks from now, so maybe longer than that. So come back tomorrow, and we'll have that episode for you on Jimmy Rants, 11 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday, and we'll see you then. All right. Yeah, I'm bracing now for that election, man. That's going to be something. Because half the population, I guess it's always that way, but like nearly half the population, regardless of who wins, nearly half the population is going to be upset. So it's just a matter of which half. We shall see. All right, well, let me boogie off of here. I do have to get to something this afternoon. It's going to take up the whole rest of my day. So I need to get out of here and get to that. But thank you so much for being here today, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, YouTube.